So my dear friends, let us start with the what is GST all about. My dear friend, when we talk about the GST, the first and the foremost principle which we should be aware of, that when we are dealing with the GST, we should be aware that what is taxable and what is not taxable under the regime of GST. So meaning thereby that which activity will attract the GST and which activity will not attract the GST. Now, my dear friend, when I'm discussing about this, how you are going to read and how you are going to study this is something, a very, very important concept of a supply vis-a-vis the taxable supply. Meaning thereby, an activity which is a supply and ultimately it is a taxable supply, then only the GST will be applicable, otherwise will not be. Now, the question will come in your mind that, yes, the definition of a supply is there under the GST law, but the definition of a taxable supply is nowhere given in the GST. So meaning thereby, it will be your expertise which will be required to understand that what is the meaning of a taxable supply. So my dear friend, which activity is falling under the GST law and which activity is not there under the GST law, if we are looking for this aspect. So I will say that the taxable supply, meaning thereby the activity which is the taxable supply, then only the GST will be applicable. And to answer this question, I just prepared a small statement called A plus B minus C and minus D. Meaning thereby, in case an activity is a taxable supply, this activity has to follow this formula. And based on that, you will be able to arrive that, okay, whether the activity will attract the GST or not. Because many times you will have a common issue that, for example, somebody is giving the grant to you, somebody is giving the donation, somebody is getting the capital contribution or something like that. Whether that will attract the GST or not is a basic question in your mind. So my dear friend, when we talk about the A, I just wish to share with you that when we are talking about the A, meaning thereby, it is called as Section 7. What I am trying to convey you that activity to be a taxable supply, first it should be a supply. So my dear friend, if I will create a bucket, so let us create a bucket and the bucket should be called as, it will be called as supply. On this bucket, now let us put all the activities, below this universe. Let us put all the activities below this universe which are fulfilling these 4 criteria. Number 1, that there should be a sale, okay, the purchase, exchange, barter or disposal of any goods or services. Number 3, for consideration, okay, and number 4, that in the course or furtherance of business. Meaning thereby, if you are selling any goods or service for a consideration during your business activity, then that activity will be called as supply. Now, my dear friend, let us understand all these words. When I'm saying sale, purchase, exchange, barter, disposal, it's not a problem, because whenever you are selling something or you are even doing a barter exchange, then also that activity may be a supply. Number 2, it should be a goods or service. Now the question will come in your mind that what else is there? No, my dear friend. Say, for example, you have a immovable property for which you have received the completion certificate. Now, if you are selling that property is neither a goods nor a service, meaning thereby that will be an immovable property and the GST will not be applicable. Why? Because it is not a supply. Similarly, the shares, for example, you are having an investment in shares, the money, and many other things are there like actionable claims, which are neither the goods nor the services. So meaning thereby, number 1, that should be a sale, or a exchange or a disposal. Number 2, that there should be a goods or service. Number 3, there should be a consideration. So let us assume, my dear friend, that whenever I am speaking or delivering a lecture, I am charging something. But here, when I am appearing in the Taxo Academy, I am saying that, okay, I will not charge anything. So even though my normal business activity is that, okay, I charge and deliver the lecture, but since there is no consideration involved into the lecture when I am appearing before the Taxo Academy, meaning thereby that the activity, though it will be a supply of service, there will be a supply of sale or I will say the delivery of the service. But since there is no consideration involved, meaning thereby the activity will not be a supply. So like it's a eligibility criteria, like it's a essential criteria. For example, if you are doing a chartered accountancy course or a cost accountancy course, you should be of a 17 years of age, you should qualify the 12th examination, you should be an Indian citizen. Similarly, in the case of a GST, the activity will be a supply only and only if I will complete all these four criteria. Number one, it should be a sale. Number two, it should be a goods or service. Number three, there should be a consideration involved. Now, I give you another example. You are going to a temple and you are distributing the sweets in the temple to the beggars, and all these things are there. Now, otherwise, if you are selling the sweet, it will be subject to the GST because there will be a disposal of the goods for a consideration. But since there is no consideration involved, the activity, though it will be a distribution of sweets, which is otherwise having HSN code and it should be subject to GST. But since there is no consideration involved, it will not be subject to the definition of a supply. So if the supply is not there, hardly how it will be a taxable supply. And number four, it should be a business activity. Now, my dear friend, in case any activity is fulfilling all these four criteria, then the activity will be a supply. And then I mentioned you the plus B, meaning thereby the schedule 1. Meaning thereby that is called the deemed supply. Now, my dear friend, under the GST law, which we are going to discuss, there are the four activities. There are the four activities wherein the consideration hardly matters. For example, you have a laptop, you purchase the laptop for your office, and after 2 years, you are giving this laptop to one of your employee on the basis of his very good services, without charging anything, meaning thereby you are disposing of your laptop, the laptop which belongs to your company, but there is capitalized in your balance sheet, and then laptop you are giving to your employee free of cost. In that case, there is no consideration involved. But since that falls under the definition of a schedule 1, meaning thereby it will be called as deemed supply, that even if there is no consideration involved, it will be a definition, it will fall under the definition of a supply. Then, my dear friend, if I will minus this, so I do the minus, and the minus is the negative list. My dear friend, under the GST, there is a schedule called Schedule 3. Schedule 3 provides us the activities that if any activity is falling under the Schedule 3, that will neither be called as a supply of goods nor a supply of service. For example, the employer-employee relationship. So in case I am an employee of yours and you are paying me certain salary or certain bonuses, in that case, that will be neither a supply of goods nor a supply of service because that falls under the negative list under the GST. And the last one is about the exemptions. So my dear friend, there are the many exemptions provided under section 11 through notification number 12/2017 under the GST law, which says that though the activity is taxable, activity is a sale of goods or sale of service for a consideration in a business case or in the business during the business as well. But since because of certain specific reason, for example, charitable reason, philanthropic reason, any educational perspective, any infrastructure development perspective, the government feels that, okay, this activity should not be taxable. For example, I just give you the example of a renting of a residential property to an individual person. So in case you are giving a renting of a residential property to a individual, in that case, that activity will be exempted under this particular notification 12/2017 and will not be subject to GST. So my dear friend, in case it is not a residential property, it is a commercial property, in that case, the activity will be subject to the GST. So meaning thereby, even if the four criteria are fulfilled related to the definition of a supply, the government feels that this activity should not be taxable. So then they have classified that activity into the exemption list, which is there, as I mentioned you, and the activity will not be a taxable supply. So meaning thereby, so if I put all the activities, so I put all the activities here, which are fulfilling all these four criteria will be called as supply. Then I will also put the activities which are deemed supply, that is on the schedule 1. I will put over there. So meaning thereby now this bucket is full. Now this bucket is full with the various activities which are there below this universe. Now out of this bucket, I will remove the activities which are falling under the schedule 3. And I will also remove the activities which are exempted. So what will happen? The activities which will remain in the bucket will be called as taxable supply. So my dear friend, this is the way that we should learn that how you will say that activity will be a taxable supply or the activity will not be taxable under the GST regime.